Hello everyone. Today I have a very powerful story to share with you. This story is actually begin with friendship, laughter, but it finally ends with a lesson that could be change the way of how you see the people around you. This is the story of three drinking companions. If you are ready, let's go for it.
There is a saying that reveals a painful truth about life. The people who destroy our lives are not always the obvious enemies we can see. Sometimes they are the friends closest to us, the ones who invite us to drink, laugh together, and slowly lead us down a path of destruction without us even realizing it. This story begins with laughter, joy, and the feeling that there is nothing to worry about. But in the end, it turns into loss, regret, and an unforgettable tragedy that remains in the hearts of everyone in the village. If you stay with this story until the very end, you may begin to question the meaning of the word friend and see it from a deeper and more cautious perspective than ever before. In a small village surrounded by peaceful rice fields lived three men whom everyone knew well. The villagers had given them a nickname that everyone remembered, the Three Drinking Companions. It was not a name that appeared by chance. It reflected the habit that everyone had become so used to seeing. First was Bunma. He was cheerful, charming, and gifted with words. Wherever he went, people gathered around him because he always knew how to make everyone laugh. Yet, behind every smile and every joke was a man who feared silence. Whenever he was alone, thoughts of debt and a life that never seemed to improve would return and weigh heavily on his heart. Drinking became the only way he knew to escape. The second was Third. He was a highly skilled carpenter whose craftsmanship was admired throughout the district. His work was detailed and beautiful, but his talent could not keep his family secure. Every time he got paid, he disappeared into the liquor shop without hesitation, leaving his wife and child waiting for him at home. Some nights, their waiting ended only in tears without comforting words to ease their pain. The last was Peng. He was a large, quiet man with a kind heart who was always willing to help others. The villagers trusted him more than anyone, but he had one serious weakness. He simply could not say no to his friends. Whenever they invited him to drink, he agreed without thinking about the consequences. The three had grown up together since childhood. They had shared good times and bad, argued countless times, and always found their way back to one another. Their friendship had become such an inseparable part of their lives that no one could imagine one without the others. They ate together, worked together, and spent most of their time side by side. Although disagreements happened from time to time, nothing was ever strong enough to break their bond. One thing never changed. Every evening after the sun disappeared below the horizon, the three gathered beneath a huge tamarind tree at the edge of the village. They sat in a circle, drank liquor, talked, laughed, and let the hours slip away without paying attention to anything around them. Whenever villagers walked past, they often shook their heads with concern. Some warned them with genuine kindness. Others criticized them in frustration. A few even said outright that if they continued living like this, something terrible would eventually happen. Still, none of those warnings ever reached their hearts. The three friends simply laughed as they always had. Bunma raised his glass with a carefree smile and said, "You only live once. Why waste your life worrying?" Third laughed and added, "After working hard all day, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a little happiness." Feng remained quiet, offering only a faint smile before clinking his glass with the others. As time passed, the small drinking circle slowly became something they could no longer live without. What began as drinking only on holidays turned into drinking every evening. Then evenings became afternoons, and one glass each became several bottles, without any of them ever feeling it had become too much. The first people to suffer were not the three friends themselves, but their families. Third's wife began selling household belongings just to buy food. Boonma's daughter had to stop going to school because there was no money for a school uniform. Fang's elderly mother quietly watched her son return home late every night, carrying the strong smell of alcohol that filled the house. Their families tried again and again to stop them, yet the answer was always the same. They promised they would quit soon. The promises sounded sincere, but every evening their feet carried them back beneath the tamarind tree, as though some invisible force were pulling them there. One day, an elderly monk whom the entire village respected walked past them. He stopped, looked at the three men with calm eyes, and said, "Alcohol does not kill a person overnight. It slowly steals everything away, little by little, until one day you realize there is nothing left to lose." Boonma smiled and replied jokingly, believing the monk was exaggerating. "We're still working, still making money, and still living just fine." The monk did not argue. He simply smiled gently, turned around and walked away, leaving his warning behind. No one paid attention to it. None of them imagined that those words would soon become reality. Not long afterward, heavy rains began to fall. There was less work in the village, and money became harder to earn. Yet there was one expense the three friends refused to reduce: the money they spent on liquor. Some days they had no money for food, yet they somehow still had enough to buy alcohol. Sometimes they went home hungry, but they refused to let their drinking circle lose a single member. Whispers spread throughout the village. Many believed the three men would never change, but one elderly villager quietly said, "Never judge a person while there is still breath in his body." His words were unnoticed. Everyone continued seeing the same old pattern repeated day after day. No one knew that within the next few days, something would happen that would change the lives of the three companions forever and leave the entire village in stunned silence. What they had always believed was nothing more than harmless fun was about to demand the highest price of all, a price that no one could ever turn time back. One morning, the sky looked darker than usual. Strong winds swayed the branches as if nature itself were warning that something was about to happen. Yet no one knew that this ordinary morning would quietly become the first step towards changing the lives of the three companions forever. Boonma woke up with a pounding headache. He slowly sat up, feeling completely drained, until his eyes fell on his young daughter. She was carefully sewing her old school bag, which had a large tear running across one side. Her small hands trembled because she had never done anything like this before, but she continued stitching it with determination, almost as if she did not want her father to feel guilty. Boonma sat there in silence, watching her without saying a word. Something deep inside him began to change. His daughter looked up and smiled warmly. "It's okay, Dad. I can keep using this one." Those simple words felt like a heavy stone pressing against his chest, making it hard for him to breathe. He suddenly remembered the promise he had made months ago that he would buy her a new school bag. But every time he earned money, it disappeared into their drinking sessions before he ever brought anything home. Unable to face her any longer, Gunma turned his head away. Guilt quietly began eating away at his heart. Meanwhile, at Third's house, the atmosphere was even heavier. His wife was silently packing their child's clothes into an old cloth bag. Her face was calm, almost emotionless, making it impossible to tell whether she was angry, heartbroken, or simply exhausted. Third looked at her in confusion and finally asked where she was going. She answered in a flat, emotionless voice, "If things stay like this, I'm taking our child back to my parents' house." As always, Third forced a laugh, trying to make the situation seem less serious. His wife said nothing more. She simply looked into his eyes for a long moment. That single glance carried years of disappointment and exhaustion before she quietly turned and walked back inside. Something about that look made Third feel uneasy, as though he were about to lose something precious. But just like every other time, he chose not to think about it. He refused to face the truth and let the feelings slip away. In another corner of the village, Peng was quietly feeding his elderly mother who had been bedridden for a long time. His hands trembled slightly as he carefully lifted each spoonful of rice to her mouth. Her mother gently reached out and held his hand tightly as if she were afraid he might disappear. Then, in a weak and trembling voice, she asked, "Are you still going to keep drinking?" It was only a short question, yet those few words struck Pang harder than anything he had ever heard. He froze in silence. For the first time in a long while, he realized he had no answer.
Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed this video and want me to make a part 2, don't forget to hit the like button and comment part 2 below this video. If this video reached 15 likes, so I'm gonna make a part 2 right away. For today, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.